Please state your name for the court.
Dr. Richard Offshay.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a professor of sociology at the University of Oxford.
And can you tell the court and the jury a little bit about your education and your background?
I received a bachelor's degree in psychology from Oxford University, and then a master's degree in sociology from the same institution, and then a PhD in the sociology department of Oxford University with a specialty in a subfield called social psychology.
Do you have any experience or training in the area of influence, more specifically in the area of influence with regard to police questioning?
All of my work over the last 10 years or more has been on the subject of influence having to do with decision making, group influence and interpersonal influence. I specialised in studying cult groups that generate violence. During that time I did a great deal of work, often involving the analysis of groups that led their followers to commit murders. I did a lot of work for prosecutorial agencies, analysing and prosecuting such crimes. Then my interest in influence continued and I began to become interested in study of police interrogation. Police interrogation is the root of techniques that have to do with coercing confessions from individuals and generally manipulating them in extraordinary ways.
Has any of your work been published?
Yes, I've published 2 books, 10 or more articles in the scientific journals and presented papers at many conferences over the years. The work on all of these subjects has been published. I also shared in a Pulitzer Prize for public service.
Have you served as a consultant to any law enforcement agencies?
Oh yes, many.
And have you ever testified on behalf of the prosecution in a criminal case?
I don't believe so. I'll have to look at the cases which I've testified.
And how many cases dealing with confessions have you been involved with?
Confessions specifically, 13. I've been involved with many more cases.
How many times have you been qualified as an expert in the area of influence and police interrogation?
25 times, 13 of which were specifically confessions.
And what is it that you studied in relation to this case?
In this case in particular, I've studied the following materials: the police reports and notes of Detectives Gitchell, Ridge and Durham, the transcript of the first and second tape-recorded interrogations of defendant Jessie Misskelley. I've listened to the tape recordings of both interrogations. I've studied the treatment records of Jessie Misskelley at Birmingham Mental Health Centre. I attended a hearing for this case on January the 13th, at which I heard and saw the testimony of detectives with respect to what occurred during the interrogation. And subsequently I reviewed transcripts of that hearing. Then I interviewed Jessie Misskelley on January the 15th and have carefully reviewed, studied and analysed the transcript of that 3-hour interview.
Doctor, is it possible that police interrogation tactics can produce a false confession?
Yes, I don't know anyone who works in the area who does not acknowledge that false confessions come out in the course of police interrogation.
And are certain individuals more susceptible to coercive police tactics than others?
Generally, it's been found that individuals who are lacking in self-confidence are more persuadable and also more likely to respond to coercive tactics, producing false confessions.
Can you tell the jury how you analyse a confession?
That starts with determining whether or not the interrogation has been tape recorded. Then the analysis of the influence process during the interrogation is fairly straightforward. When police agencies have not tape recorded an interrogation, the problem is much more complicated because it is necessary to try to reconstruct the events of the interrogation from the available information. In this particular case, 2 recorded statements of Jessie Misskelley gave us a great deal of information about what happened during his interrogation and illustrates certain things about the tactics which were used and the suggestibility of Jessie Misskelley in terms of how he responded to particular tactics that were simply captured on the recorded part of the interrogation.
Doctor, I believe you stated earlier that you had a look at this case with regard to Jessie Misskelley.
Yes, I did.
And you've read the transcripts of his statements to the police, both statements?
Yes, I did.
And you've listened to the tapes?
Yes.
And you've also heard the officers testify at a previous hearing?
Yes, I did.
And you've listened and interviewed to Jessie Misskelley regarding his interrogation and his confession?
That's correct.
And have you formed any opinions with regards to this case?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Could you tell the jury what that opinion is?
That Jessie Misskelley was coerced into confessing for this crime.
Meaning?
That Jessie Misskelley's confession was false.
That's no further questions. Thank you, Dr. Offshay.
Thank you.